Good evening. If you desire to address the City Council during the meeting, please complete a request to speak form. It's available at the entrance and present it to the City Clerk. Speakers will be called upon at the appropriate time. At this time, I will convene the City Council meeting of the City of Grand Terrace. Will Rabbi Fuss please approach the lectern for an invocation? And would you all please rise and stay standing for the Pledge of Allegiance?
Dear God, we stand before you this evening to pray that you continue to grant the honored members of the Grand Terrace City Council the knowledge, wisdom, and understanding to serve the citizens of Grand Terrace well, now and in the future. And we pray that you lead them in making the right decisions that serve your purpose, a higher purpose. May the good members of this council continue to embody and encourage a spirit of mutual cooperation, respect, and peace amongst all citizens of Grand Terrace. And may the members of this body serve as positive role models for this beautiful community. May God keep this city safe from violence and crime, protect its citizens, and bless them with good health and prosperity. Let me conclude with the Hebrew prayer, Oseh Shalom Bimromav, Hu Yaseh Shalom Aleinu Ve'al Kol Yisrael V'imru Amen. May he who makes peace in heaven bestow peace upon us and all of his children. And let us all say, Amen.
Amen. Please join me in the pledge to our nation's flag. Ready to begin? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to thank the Rabbi for being here tonight. He comes to us from Riverside, the Shabbat Jewish Community Center. Thank you so much for being here. Wonderful. Thank you for being here. Madam City Clerk, may we have roll call, please?
Yes, ma'am. Councilmember Hussey?
Present.
Councilmember Wilson?
I'm here.
Councilmember Mitchell?
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Robles?
Present.
Mayor McNable?
Present.
Mayor, you have a quorum?
Thank you. We had a last-minute entry for a special presentation, and we are honored tonight to have our Assembly member, Cheryl Brown, with us this evening, and she wishes to give a special presentation. If you would, Madam Assembly member, come to the lectern up here.
I don't know if you can see me over this high podium, but thank you. Thank you, Grand Terrace. Thank you so much for allowing me to come and do something that is near and dear to my heart. I have an event every year that's called Men of Distinction. You know, many times we laud women and we have women's events, but very few people think about what the men are doing. And we really want to recognize the men of distinction. The men of distinction come from each community, one person. And this year, my man of distinction for this city, for Grand Terrace, was doing what he would do as a selfless individual. And it's what he does that makes you know that he is a man of distinction. Mr. James McNamara. He's a U.S. Air Force veteran, and he served right here at Norton Air Force Base. He was elected to the Board of Directors for Riverside Highland Water Company in 2007. For many years, he served his community through generous activities of the Lions Club of Grand Terrace. Mr. McNamara serves as chairman of their grants committee, and recently they gave 15 scholarships to Grand Terrace High School seniors. His Lion Clubs holds the annual vision clinic called Friends in Sight of Those in Need. He's a founding member of the Freedom Wall Committee, and I want to say I have purchased a brick in the Freedom Wall Committee from them. And he wants to put this Veterans Wall of Freedom here in Grand Terrace for people who served. It doesn't matter if they served now or if they served in another city, but they served in the U.S. military. It's interesting, too, and it's wonderful, too, that Mr. McNamara is married to the Honorable Mayor of Grand Terrace, Darcy McNamara. And together, they are a powerful team. I am so honored to be able to give to him. And when I said that he was doing, when he couldn't attend the event, and I said what he was doing, is he was doing something for his wife. He stood beside her through her illness. He's been there. You see them out all the time. He's kept her spirits up. And I appreciate him being a man of distinction in the 47th Assembly District. Is he available? Where is he? Oh, you did get him. And look at the smile. I mean, he just smiles. He smiles through anything. If things are going bad, you'd never know it because he's always got a wonderful smile. And I appreciate you and I thank you for all that you do in our community and in your own family. And I wanted to make sure that we give you, thank you, give you that. Thank you so much. Let me read it. It's my privilege to celebrate your selection as one of this year's distinguished honorees. You represent the very best among us. On behalf of the constituents of the 47th Assembly District, congratulations. And if I don't bring him the certificates that Norma Torres from the 35th Congressional District sent you, I would be remiss. So she asked me to make this presentation to you, as well as Josie Gonzalez from the Board of Supervisors, San Bernardino Board of Supervisors. And I think you have another one from Congressman Pete Aguilar. So you really, oh, I'm sorry, I missed that one. Okay, also the Senate, Connie Leyva, Senator Connie Leyva also sent you a certificate. And lastly, I have a young lady who works in my office, Alexis. Alexis actually put this all together. Put your initials on front, and it's for you. Thank you so much. I don't know if you can hold it. But she also gave you a bottle of, looks like wine, but it's actually, it's probably sparkling apple cider. Thank you, council members. Thank you, Mayor, for allowing me to honor one of your best citizens in this community.
Thank you, Assemblymember Brown. I appreciate you taking the time to come personally and to share this with our community. Mr. McNamara, do you have a few words you wanted to say?
Madam Mayor, members of the council, I'm breaking a promise I made in, I think, 2006, when then Commissioner McNamara first sat behind the dais. I decided at that point I wouldn't speak to you from this lectern. And then again, I renewed that promise in 2010. I think I've broken it twice now. One, to receive a check for the Veterans Wall of Freedom and thank Joanne Johnson, and tonight to thank Assemblymember Cheryl Brown so very much for this honor. I think I met Cheryl Brown before she was Assembly member at the Pancake Breakfast in 2010 before our community days put on by volunteers. And ever since then, Assembly member Cheryl Brown has been a great friend of Grand Terrace, and we truly appreciate that. I don't think you've missed a community day since then. You've been at all of the veterans ceremonies. You've been at the Memorial Day commemorations and other special events that we've had in the city. And I thank you very much for being a very good friend of Grand Terrace. There's a lot going on in Grand Terrace. And I jotted down a few things before coming here tonight. Youth football and soccer just seems like it's always going on. The baseball teams, football teams, basketball teams, depending on the time of year. That stuff doesn't happen by itself. There are many community members out there, board members, parents, kids, of course, who play, and then, of course, the people who fund these financially. I thank each and every one of them for what they do to help make this city a better place. Just in August, we have National Night Out. I think that's next week. We have the Grand Terrace football game starting. That's a Veterans Appreciation Night on the 28th. We have Movies in the Park. That's just August. Volunteers putting on almost all of that. I'd like to thank each and every one of them for their time. In September, we have the 5K. There will be hundreds of people. We'll have streets closed for that. Again, all volunteers. I thank each and every one of them for coming out and helping out with this. We have the Country Fair, the dedication of our monument in November, Pot of Gold, big fundraiser, so that we can continue on with our community events through the Lions. We have youth programs, service clubs, Lions, women's clubs, Historical Society, Friends of the Library, Chamber of Commerce, the Rec Center, the Foundation of Grand Terrace with the Veterans Wall of Freedom, the dog park, the skate park, community events, keep Grand Terrace clean and beautiful, the Friends of Blue Mountain, who will one day have a park on that Blue Mountain up there. And if you can't find something on this list, start it. You will have people who will help you make it happen. And so just remember one thing. You are Grand Terrace. You make it happen. Please, if you are involved in one of these organizations, you have my deep appreciation. If you are not involved in any of these organizations, my number's in the book. Call me. I will get you involved. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move to the consent calendar. The following consent calendar items are expected to be routine and non-controversial. They will be acted upon by the City Council at one time without discussion. Any council member, staff member, or citizen may request removal of an item from the consent calendar for discussion. Are there any items that my colleagues would like to remove?
Item 4, please.
Any others? Okay, do I have a motion for the balance?
A motion, balance.
Okay.
Madam Mayor, I don't know if you would like to state the correction for the minutes.
Yes, please do.
There's a correction on the minutes of June 23rd. They've been placed on your dais. If you all are willing to take the correction, we can approve the minutes along with the consent calendar.
Okay, Councilmember Mitchell, when you are moving the balance, will you move the balance with the amendment to the agenda as well?
Yes,
Or minutes, I'm sorry.
yes.
Okay. So we have a motion.
I'll second the
And a
motion.
second. Please vote.
Can you revote? Motion passes 5 ayes. Council members Hussey, Wilson, Mitchell voted aye. Mayor Pro Tem Robles voted aye. Mayor McNamara voted aye.
Thank you. Okay, item 4 is purchase of license plate reader camera for public safety vehicle. Councilmember Mitchell.
I had a question and staff was able to answer the question, but I just wanted to make sure that we have it for public record that the agreement will also include installation.
Okay. Any other questions about this item while we have it? Okay, would you like to move the item?
Were you going to comment? We don't want to cheat you out of that opportunity.
I'm sorry, is that a question?
No,
Okay, gotcha.
yeah. Okay, I'll move item number 4.
Okay. And I'll second. Please vote.
Motion passes 5 ayes. Council members Hussey, Wilson, Mitchell voted aye. Mayor Pro Tem Robles voted aye. Mayor McNamara voted aye.
Thank you. Next item is public comment. This is an opportunity for members of the public to comment on items not appearing on the regular agenda. Because of restrictions contained in California law, the City Council may not discuss or act on any item not on the agenda, but may briefly respond to statements made or ask a question for clarification. The mayor, myself, may also request a brief response from staff to questions raised during public comment, or may request a matter be agendized to a future meeting. And I have an item in front of me. So our first to speak will be the Inland Empire Derby Divas. If you would approach the lectern, please.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and members of the council. My name is Vanessa, AKA Coco Brown, and with me I have a couple of my fellow teammates, and I'd like for them to be able to just introduce themselves briefly.
I'm Sage Gonzalez, AKA Savage Kitty Sage. I'm Bernie Campbell, Crazy Hot Mess, and I actually live in Grand Terrace, so.
I'm Ada Andrade, AKA R2 Beat You.
And as stated, we are members of the Inland Empire Derby Divas. The reason why we are here tonight is not only to let you know that we are housed in the city of Grand Terrace and happy to be housed in the city of Grand Terrace. We actually practice and play at Calskate Grand Terrace right down the street, but we are representing the premier roller derby team, which is all women, and we also recruit men as well, 18 and over, for referees and officials. We have a really important day coming up, and it's August 22nd. It is our first home bout of the season. And the reason why we're here today is to actually invite you, Madam Mayor, and the members of the council to come out, if you will, grace us with your presence. We'd be honored to have you to come out and actually blow the whistle to our first bout, AKA game. So on the paperwork, we have left our contact information. I have left my email address and my telephone number. So if you are available, we would love to have you. Please RSVP. And again, it would just be an honor for us to have you out.
What time is your match?
It is at 6:30 and doors open at 6 p.m. And again, just as stated before, it is at Calskate Grand Terrace, right down the road.
And what day of the week is August 22nd?
It is on a Saturday. We actually have flyers available as well. And it just has all of our information. And again, we are just very proud to be able to represent the city of Grand Terrace, and as the Inland Empire Derby Divas, happy to just represent the Inland Empire.
Okay. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
And I will get back to you as far as my availability, and I imagine the other council members will as well.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for the invitation.
Thank
and it
you.
is wonderful to have you here tonight.
Thank you.
All right, that was the one speaker slip that I had. Is there anybody else who would like to speak? Okay, seeing no one coming forward, I'm going to close public comment, and we'll come back to our council members for their communications. Councilmember Hussey.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Assemblymember Brown, for coming here tonight. And congratulations again, Jim, on your award. Much deserved. And thank you, residents and divas, for coming out tonight. I don't really have that much. I just want to thank the staff personally My extended family got to rent a community hall here. We had a death in our family, so it was a celebration of life, and thank you for the paperwork, pushing it through and, helping them out. Really appreciate it. They were very grateful, and they just wanted to extend their thank you for city staff taking care of them. Nothing, like I said, really going on. I just want to remind everybody on Grand Terrace, if you have any code enforcement violations, I know it's usually the violations are done during weekends, please call the City Hall on Monday or the closest business days. If you're having issues with the City Hall, one of those council members, just get in contact with us. But please don't take it upon yourself to remedy the violation. I mean, you could talk in civil to them, but just if you're having issues, just let the city take care of it, or one of the council members. Also, once again, my pet peeve, please license your pet. That's all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Wilson.
Thank you, Mayor. Don't have a lot to say. Thank you, Assemblymember Cheryl Brown, for being here. I have noticed that we are doing really well in relation to our water conservation situation. One thing, though, I thought I might mention, being involved in some irrigation and landscape situations. What we have a tendency to do is, if we don't quite understand the irrigation machine itself, the timer, we have a tendency to just turn it off. And that's probably not the wisest thing you can do, especially if you've got an investment and you intend to keep it. But what I would suggest is fertilizer helps. If you do it at the right time with a lawn, even though you're shorting the water to a lawn, it's amazing what fertilizer will do in this area. So if you want to keep your lawn, and if you're still adamant about staying with the new water conservation requirements, which is what we should do, then try a little fertilizer. Maybe you cut it back in half or something, but it'll help your lawn stay healthy. So that's all I have. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilmember Mitchell.
Thank you, Mayor. I too would like to thank Assemblymember Brown for being here tonight and taking the time to recognize Mr. McNoble. I agree with your nomination and the award overall. Jim, you're just amazing, the time that you dedicate to this community, and just the humbleness tonight, even instead of talking about yourself, you took the time to recognize all the wonderful organizations and clubs that are available within this community, and took time to help recruit for them as well. So congratulations once again. I also want to thank the few residents that came out tonight. It's always nice to have you participate in the city council meetings. I also had the pleasure of attending the Grand Terrace Chamber installation dinner last week, and it was a nice event, and our mayor did a really nice job installing the new 2016 chamber board, and overall it was just a really nice event, and I want to thank the volunteers that put it on. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem.
I really have nothing today. My other meetings will start August 3rd, so the next time I'll have something to report on that. But other than that, I want to thank Assemblymember Cheryl Brown for coming. I don't think people realize the hard work you do in Sacramento, and then to come here and spend time with us is just truly appreciated. Also attended the chamber installation and really enjoyed it. It was really a positive event, and I really enjoyed it. It was something that took the stress of the week off, and was nice to have the fellowship with the chamber. Really appreciated it, and that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. So I attended the California JPIA regular Board of Directors meeting on behalf of the city on July 15th. And this annual meeting is mostly to go over an annual report of how things are doing. They give out awards for cities that have done really well with their risk management, and then they elect officers. So we elected officers, and pretty much we re-elected those that have been serving. There was one person that challenged a seat, though, and so that was interesting to hear from all three of the candidates and get to vote instead of just having the one candidate who had been a member of their board before. A couple of the things that they talked about is they're looking at ways to be more relevant in the services that they offer to cities. And so right now, as it is, our city is in a pool with other municipalities and organizations in sort of a self-insurance way of insuring ourselves. If we all pool together, and then as things happen, we have payment from this pool. But what they're finding is that there are some cities that would like to have a way to take on more individual risk. In other words, they don't want to have the first dollar of an issue paid for. They would rather have kind of a deductible and then pay in less towards the pool and take on more of the risk themselves. And so they are looking at ways of offering those types of coverages to cities and organizations who still want to be in this pool but want to change the structure of how they are insured. So they're looking at the formation of a capital insurance company, and that's going to come up with some different levels of risk that would be insured at different amounts. I think this would help certain cities with their budgets too, depending on what we're paying for the insurance at this time. They also wanted to emphasize that they have labor law specialists that are free to the cities for consultation. Not that they were trying to get in the way of our city attorneys, but they were saying that this is another resource that could be consulted as well. And then there were a few other things that they looked at. One of the topics that is becoming very important is cyber liability, and they will be having some information for cities and their member organizations on cyber liability in the future. I too attended the installation of chamber officers, and I'm happy to see that the chamber is looking at the coming year with some fresh officers to make some strong changes in the way that they function here. I think we as a city are better when we have a strong partner in our Chamber of Commerce, and so I look forward to them being that strong partner, and I did challenge them to be that for us. Let's see, Saturday, July 18th, I attended coffee with Congressman Pete Aguilar. It was a very well-attended event. I didn't really think that they got the word out very much, but they filled a whole room of our residents who were interested not only in hearing from our congressman, but had basic questions about our law enforcement here in town and the security and safety issues. So I was very pleased that the congressman came to town, that he held that meeting, and that I had the opportunity as well to speak with residents on some of their concerns locally. On Tuesday, August 4th, Mr. McNaveau mentioned this. We have a Central Station National Night Out celebration that will be from 4:30 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. at Richard Rollins Community Park. This is being sponsored by a number of organizations: San Bernardino County, the City of Grand Terrace, the Grand Terrace Lions, our Sheriff's Department, Target, and City of Loma Linda. We look forward to having a good turnout on that and to learn about ways to keep our community safe. And one last thing is there's a new business that is having a grand opening on August 7th, and it's the Beer Room. It's behind Domino's Pizza. And that is a place that I can take my man of distinction out to celebrate and wish him success. Thank you again, Assembly Member, for being here to share that award with us. And so I will move forward with our next item, and that is we don't have any public hearings, we don't have any unfinished business, so we'll move to new business. Item number 5 is the approval of the check register, number 6302015, in the amount of $401,853.85. May we have a staff report, please?
Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, City Council. Before you is the approval of check register number 0630-2015 in the amount of $401,853.85. This is for the last month in June in the fiscal year 2014-15. Sorry. My name is Cynthia Fortune from the Finance Department. As you know, this supports goal number 1, ensuring our fiscal viability through the continuous monitoring of expenditure budgets, allocations, and operational costs. Because of the nature of the total amount of the check register, our city manager thought it wise that we present it to you. And as listed in the staff report, any payments larger than $10,000 have been listed, and those are for Progressive Solutions, for annual software maintenance, Wildan Financial for your finance department services, our CalPERS monthly contribution for employees' retirements, our county land use services for fire hazard abatement services. Just to inform the council, these are for 2 fiscal years. The contract calls that the county charges us $13,000 and change annually for weed abatement services on private property. I am going to ask the Community Development Director to explain that, should you have additional questions on that. As you can see, we have Edison. Our main energy usage is roughly $12,000. Our animal control services for $16,000, and again, additional CalPERS contributions in the amount of $20,000. Our average payroll costs for the month is about $110,000 for 2 pay periods. This concludes our staff report for the check register. I'll be happy to answer any questions City Council may have.
I have a question.
Yes, Mayor.
And it's not about weed abatement, but I appreciate that opportunity. Packet page 123. And it's the check 71635, $1,280.33. And it's the reimbursement for the purchase of...
I'm sorry, our check register report cut that off. That was the reimbursement for the laptop computer. As stated, the city was to provide the city manager a laptop computer. And this is the cost for that.
Thank you. Staff have any questions, or does council have any questions of staff?
Mayor?
Okay, Councilmember Hussey and then Wilson.
Yeah, let's go back to the weed abatement. The check 71701's for the fire hazard weed abatement. Why are we paying another weed abatement service on 732?
Madam Mayor, I may answer that. We actually received 2 bills in 1 fiscal year. That's why you see 13,000 and some change twice. The county was late in billing us for one of the previous fiscal years, and that's why you see 13 and 13. And then we will get billed again annually.
Mayor, if I might also, too, just a point of clarification, is that the bill that you have before you is for the services that the county provides to going out and notifying the private property owners. It's not a bill for the city's property. It's the services that they're providing and meeting our needs for fire notification and clarification and clearing of the properties.
All right, thank you.
Councilmember Wilson.
Yeah, just for the record, I've asked the city manager to look into this particular item. As you know, fire and hazard abatement is important, but we're concerned that we might be giving away the farm in relation to this particular service, and I realize it's not the kind of thing that we love to be involved in the most of the time, but we had an agreement in 1995 with the county to do a service that involved all areas within the city that were not owned by private property owners. And then there's been some juxtapositioning in relation to how that agreement was actually implemented. So the city manager is going to take a look at that, as well as take a look at whether or not there is any fining that's happening to our citizens that's not justified.
Thank you.
Mayor, we'll put that on the report backlog, and then we'll bring that back to the council.
I appreciate that. I know we did have a couple of members of the public come and speak with prior city managers regarding this particular issue, and I know they were resolved, but I think that the issue is that perhaps they were resolved one time because they were brought to us. Okay. Any other questions for staff?
I
Mayor Pro Tem?
move approval of the check register.
I will second.
Okay, there's been a motion and second. Please vote.
Motion passes, 5 ayes. Council members Hussey, Wilson, Mitchell voted aye. Mayor Pro Tem Robles voted aye. Mayor McNamara voted aye.
Thank you. We'll move to item 6, which is the approval of amendment number 1 to the professional services and maintenance agreement between the City of Grand Terrace and High Tech Security for security camera upgrade services. May we have a staff report, please?
Thank you, Honorable Mayor and City Council. For the record, Adrian Freeman, Management Analyst. This staff report supports the 2030 vision, goal number 2, to maintain public safety by investing in critical improvements to technological infrastructure. On June 9th, 2015, City Council approved a professional services and maintenance agreement between the city and High Tech Security in the amount of $22,566. All equipment from that agreement has been installed. Staff requested a cost proposal from High Tech Security for an additional license plate camera after council expressed interest in placing a license plate camera at another park with high traffic. Additionally, staff requested a price quote for a security lockbox for the annex building so that we can provide greater security for the camera footage in that location. City staff and High Tech Security visited Pico Park to identify an ideal location for the license plate camera. Pico Park has high traffic due in part to the baseball leagues and its proximity or close proximity to the high school. At Pico Park, the license plate camera could simply be installed by replacing an existing signpost there at the entrance of the park and installing the 16-foot camera post, and then the existing signs can then be placed on that new camera post. The total cost for the license plate camera, the 16-foot post, and the DVR security lockbox is $5,154.90, or approximately $5,155. If the amendment to the scope of work is approved, the time for performance of the agreement will need to be extended to August 20th. That will give time to order equipment and do the installation. At this time, staff is recommending council approve the amendment to the professional services and maintenance agreement for High Tech Security in the total amount of $27,721, and authorize the city manager to execute the amendment. Should council have any questions, staff or Mike Allegas, who is here with High Tech Security, would be more than willing to answer questions.
Council have any questions of staff? Mr. Hussey?
I know we talked about either Pico Park or Richard Rollins Park, and so Pico Park was decided. Will this be the same price if we were to install one at Richard Rollins Park also? Rough estimate, the license plate reader?
If Mr. Allegas would like to join me, I think that would depend on the location in terms of point of view for the driveway. This camera needs to be focused on the driveway to capture the license plates. So if we would need to do trenching and so forth to install the post, Mr. Allegas could comment on Rollins Park.
My name is Mr. Allegas. I'm with High Tech Security. On Rollins Park, with the situation of the building, we would be able to place the camera on the building itself and view the driveway without doing any trenching. So the price of that would be considerably less than the Pico Park. You would not need the mounting post, the 16-foot mounting post, and we would not need to do the trenching and so forth. So it would be approximately $2,200 to $2,500 less in expense to add one to that park.
And that field of view will get both exits and both entrances, because there's two of them, because there's an in and out.
Well, to do that, you would have to install 2 cameras if you want to look at both entrances. That would be the way you'd have to do that.
So wouldn't it be a wide angle on there to capture both or is this more of a,
Well, you don't want to, the wider the angle, you're putting more information into the screen, so you get less detail in the picture. So we're trying to read license plates, so we're not even trying to see the entire vehicle. We're trying to see the front or the rear of the vehicle. We're not trying to see what type of vehicle it is, model, make, or anything like that. We're concentrating on the license plate.
so basically to get 100% coverage, we're going to need 2 cameras, so
That would be correct.
thank you.
I have a question before you leave, sir. Did you looked at both parks and determined that Pico Park was one that we should have this license plate reader?
Well, I looked at both parks, ma'am, but I did not make that decision on which park you wanted to put. That decision was made by your staff.
Okay. Then I have a question for staff. What went into the determination that Pico Park was the park to put this in instead of Rollins?
Well, I think part of that is just the high traffic and the proximity to the high school. That was part of what played into the determination. As Mr. Allegas mentioned, I think we might have more effect with the 1 camera at Pico Park.
When you talk about high traffic, is there a certain amount of traffic that is suggested that an area have before a camera like this is useful?
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
I can go ahead and respond to that. There isn't a threshold for traffic volume that's recommended for the placement of these cameras. The Pico Park just has a tendency to have a lot of use over the weekends with the leagues, and also because, as indicated by Ms. Freeman, because of the proximity to the high school and the traffic that we get from the high school. That was the basis and rationale for staff suggesting Pico Park.
Okay, thank you. Other questions for staff?
I believe additionally, council had asked for staff to look into the cost for a camera at Pico Park.
That is correct as well.
Any other questions for staff? Okay, hearing none, I will open up public comment. And I don't see any members of the public coming forward to speak, so I will close public comment and bring it back to council for a motion.
Madam Mayor, before we have a motion, can I speak here?
Can I ask a question first? I'm sorry. May I ask a question?
You have a question of staff? Or is it a discussion point? If it's a discussion point, I'd like to have a motion and then have discussion.
Do the motion. I make a motion to approve amendment number 1 to the professional services and maintenance agreement between the City of Grand Terrace and High Tech Security for security upgrade services.
Okay, for the purpose of discussion, I will second that. And your question?
Go ahead, Jen.
My question was, I just need a little clarification on the contract itself. Is it including the camera at Pico Park? Because
Are you looking at the scope of work?
oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, I don't have my glasses tonight, but I'm looking at the overall, we're approving,
My understanding is we had previously approved $22,566, and staff has brought this back to us to amend the cost to include $4,885.36, of which part of that is the license plate reader, and the other is the cost for the lockbox.
and the ongoing maintenance of that camera, correct?
We have
I
a
want to make sure
maintenance
that it's
agreement.
including all of those components.
We have a maintenance agreement, yes, that is
Okay.
correct. And
All right,
actually,
that's where
I
I was
believe
headed with it, Mayor.
the total overall cost would be $5,154.90
Okay.
for both items together.
And then my additional question was the $65,497 are funds that are available?
Yes, Councilmember Mitchell, that is correct.
Okay. So I'd like to entertain the possibility of placing 2 cameras. Not sure if we would need to approve this one and then bring it back for the additional camera. or conversation for the additional camera at Rollins as well?
Mr. City Manager?
Yes, and actually, you could actually make the adjustment tonight, but I do want to just kind of clarify a few things regarding the LPR cameras. So right now, at both parks, you have a camera system that captures people going in and out of the park. And it is conceivable that those cameras will capture a license plate. You can go back and read that. Now, the only difference is that these LPRs will be identifying the license plates, and it will be stored in maybe in the field to the sheriff's department, so you'll get that information, particularly for that point. But in terms of your coverage right now, your existing cameras provide you coverage for the park that at any point in time, the sheriff's department can contact the city staff and pick that information. Now, having the LPRs at both sites will increase your security. For example, staff mentioned that if you're having a big a baseball event or something at Pico Park, if something were to happen and you need to get detailed information, you'd be able to pick up all the cars that leave that particular vehicle. But in terms of coverage for the park, you already have the coverage for the park at both parks with the existing camera system. The LPR was originally recommended at the Krieger Park primarily to just read license plates. Our discussion that we had with council was that we can get better coverage or even additional information by going to Pico Park. You can certainly do the same thing at Rollins Park, but in terms of the data that you have, the parks and the cameras that you currently have at the parks provide a coverage. The LPR cameras is going to provide additional coverage for license plates. It'll capture the license plates. But in terms of activity in the park, your existing camera system provides that coverage.
I'm a little bit concerned that this is the second time that we're discussing this, and then we're incrementally adding things. I want to just approve this because when one person says, I want to amend it, that's not really going through the process that we have here, where we make amendments. It would really need to be a motion and then, the plurality of this body. So it just seems like I don't want to go that direction on things. I want to keep them clean. If there's a desire to do another action, let's bring that action independently.
I would like to see us really have a discussion about what the goal is here. I mean, we approved the update of the security system and the inclusion of the LPR for Carter Park because it made sense with a lot of the traffic. And I understand there's a value to having an LPR at the park, but I'm not convinced that that is something that we are remiss to leave off of this. And I agree, I don't want to see this come back incrementally, adding another camera here and another camera here. Do we or do we not have good coverage at the park with what we approved last time? And I'm wondering why it wasn't recommended to have the LPR readers at the other parks last time, if that's something that's dire.
I'm sorry. My understanding was, when I sat down with the Sheriff's Department, there was a concern with the council regarding LPRs because they felt there was a violation of the privacy of the citizens. But the LPRs that the Sheriff's Department uses actually communicates that data back to their main database, their computer base, and is stored for a long period of time. Whereas the systems we install, you're recording it to a local DVR, it's not transmitted over the internet and so forth. And so in order to retrieve that data, you have to physically go to the location to retrieve the data. And the data is only recorded or saved for a certain period of time, 2 to 3 weeks. So I think there was a concern with the Sheriff's Department whether even a LPR or license plate camera would even be approved to begin with. And so kind of what I got out of the meeting that we had, they were just trying to see if they could get the one license plate camera installed. And after, I guess after you did approve that, they realized, well, putting license plate cameras in these other locations would be beneficial to them.
Madam Mayor, may I also respond? With regard to the existing parks and the camera systems that we put in there, part of this entire request for proposal process was to, our staff sat down, our code enforcement staff, Adrian sat down, and we sat down with also the Sheriff's Department and looked at the camera system in the parks. There was a walkthrough done at all the parks to determine where the cameras should be placed, if any of the cameras should be placed in a position that was different than what we already had at the time when we first started this process. And through these walkthroughs and a discussion with the vendor as far as camera placement, staff is comfortable with the coverage that we currently have with what we put in place, what's in place today and what was approved by the council. The one discussion that had taken place was with the LRP at a high traffic area, which is Barton Road, Mount Vernon and DeBerry. And because of Cargo Park being in proximity, we had the ability to also place it at that location. On the June 9th meeting, there was a discussion by the council to potentially look at placing a second camera at another area that has a lot of traffic volume that we may want to capture license plates. One of the suggestions was at Pico Park, but it was, which park would it make sense? And so staff did go through that process and we explained the rationale behind that. But as indicated by the city manager, these cameras do not provide additional coverage of our facilities. What they do is essentially zoom in at the driveways to provide a camera shot of the license plate. And so you aren't getting more coverage at the parks, you're just getting another component of surveillance.
And Mayor, if I might also add too, and as we think about Pico Park, we think about the activities that might go on there, and think about the number of people that might migrate in from out of town, as we talk about the Veterans Memorial Wall going up. And so you're going to be getting lots of traffic there. If something were to happen, that's additional information that the sheriff could pick up in terms of the license plate, the reading of that system. So in terms of we're trying basically to bring back what we said we would do. In terms of the council had the discussion, we said we check out the cost, we bring it back to you. But for me, because of the nature of Pico Park, it may be an additional security measure that you may want to consider as part of the process.
I thought I had remembered Councilmember Hussey asking about Rollins Park in particular. And so I was a little surprised to see that the camera was for Pico Park. And so now we're starting into another discussion now that it's being requested that it go in at Pico Park, but my colleagues are saying, well, what about Rollins Park? So it's almost as though we're going through this incrementally. We're not looking at it with a full view for what security needs we have and what makes sense.
And that may have been my mistake in terms of, because I remember focusing in on Pico Park. I thought that was the direction that we had. Certainly, as we had the discussion internally, and we talked about the camera system and the coverage of what you're talking about, the focus was the Sheriff's Department gave their recommendation for a particular park. We had the discussion, and we said we'd bring it back. And as we start talking about the activity that's going to be occurring, it becomes, that's a fail-safe. That's an additional resource that we might have. Certainly, if it's something that the council, I don't think there's a time frame that if we don't do it, if we put one in today, we can come back and look at another one 3 months from now. If we decide not to do anything today, we can come back and revisit the issue. So it certainly is additional coverage to what we currently have at all the parks.
Are you recognized?
Yes. Councilmember Mitchell.
As we're talking through this, somehow my memory is jogged, and I'm recalling that the Cargo Park camera would capture the license plates because there's a likeliness that the vehicle would head down DeBerry towards the park.
It was just a main heavily traveled intersection that we have the opportunity to capture those license plates due to the proximity of Carter Park having the infrastructure that would be needed to support that camera.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Any further discussion? We have a motion and a second.
Mayor, I'd like to speak, please.
Councilmember Hussey.
Yeah, Mayor, you were right. I asked for the cameras at either Richard Rawlings or Pico. Reason why, because the children are there, not because of equipment at the fitness park. So that was my concern, is I didn't realize we were still going to put the camera at the fitness park and put one at Pico Park. So that was to clarify what my request was. Thank you.
Okay, any other discussion?
Madam Mayor, may I just add one thing? Should it be the council's desire to not at this time fund the additional LRP camera, staff does request that the council, at a minimum, approve the security lockbox for the camera system in the annex building. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we have a motion and second. Please vote.
Motion passes, 5 ayes. Council members Hussey, Wilson, Mitchell voted aye. Mayor Pro Tem Robles voted aye. Mayor McNamara voted aye.
Thank you. And thank you for the discussion on that item. We'll move to item 7, repeal Municipal Code Chapter 15.36 and repeal and replace Municipal Code Chapter 15.24 relating to permitting procedures for small residential rooftop solar energy systems. May we have a staff report, please?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. My name is Sandra Molina. I am your Community Development Director. This item before you, as indicated by the mayor, is a proposed ordinance to establish permitting procedures for small residential rooftop solar energy systems. In September of 2014, AB 2188, the Solar Permitting Efficiency Act, was signed into law by Governor Brown, which requires local governments to adopt an ordinance creating an expedited permit process for these type of solar systems. And these are the type of systems you typically see on single-family residential homes. So the legislature passed this law, and so the ordinance that's in your packet is a result of that law. This particular ordinance has been reviewed by the city attorney, our building and safety department, and the county fire department. The ordinance before the council, the significant elements of the ordinance includes the duties of the building official to publish all application documents on the city website, create a means for electronic submittal of applications, and adopt a standard plan and checklist of all requirements. Included in the packet was an excerpt of the California Solar Permitting Guidebook, and that guidebook was provided as an overview and for reference to the council. We didn't provide the entire guidebook because the majority of it was was the toolkits for the actual permitting and standard plans that an applicant could provide to go through this expedited process. And it was very redundant and also very technical, and so we just felt that it would be better be left out. But because that guidebook did have the templates that they recommend cities using to expedite this process, we are using those templates. We have revised those templates. They are ready to go as soon as this ordinance becomes effective. They will be provided to all applicants so that there's a standardized checklist and a standardized template, and it will expedite this process. And we also have those ready to be uploaded to our website. And we have created a separate email address for electronic submissions, and so the staff has done a very good job as far as getting ready for that. And with respect to the expedited permit, the permit review, the law recommends a over-the-counter process, but they do allow up to 3 business days to handle those type of applications and 5 business days for electronically filed applications. At this time, our ordinance states that we would do over-the-counter processing within 3 business days, and I think that is an adequate time frame for our staff to be able to process those applications. We have also created the standard checklist, and in the discussion of an expedited review, for rooftop residential small solar systems, planning department does not provide a review. That goes straight to building and safety, so we've eliminated that step, and we probably eliminated that step about 2 years ago. At this time, staff is recommending that the council conduct the first read of the ordinance to repeal Municipal Code Chapter 15.36 in its entirety, repeal Municipal Code Chapter 15.24 in its entirety, and adopt a new Chapter 15.24 entitled Small Residential Rooftop Solar Energy System Permits. With that, I will be happy to respond to any questions the council may have. Thank you.
Thank you. Does council have any questions of staff? Okay. And I have no request to speak forms, so I'll bring it back to council for a motion.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion for approval and a second.
Madam Mayor?
Do we need to read?
Yeah, the motion that was made was to read by title only, waive further reading, and introduce the ordinance. Would you like for me to read the ordinance of this?
I would like you to do that. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll read the title. An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Grand Terrace repealing Chapter 15.36, Solar Water Heating Systems, in its entirety, and repealing and replacing Chapter 15.24, Uniform Solar Energy Code of Title 15 of the Grand Terrace Municipal Code relating to permitting procedures for small residential rooftop solar energy systems.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, we have a motion and second. Please vote.
Motion passes 5 ayes. Council members Hussey, Wilson, Mitchell voted aye. Mayor Pro Tem Robles voted aye. Mayor McNamara voted aye.
Thank you. Item number 8, a resolution establishing policies and procedures for the naming of city-owned land, buildings, and facilities. May we have a staff report, please?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Before you is a resolution establishing policies and procedures for the naming of city-owned land, buildings, and facilities. This item came about through a request for a name change to one of our parks. In evaluating that request, we determined that there is no current policy in place to name or rename a city facility. Therefore, at this time, it would be appropriate for the council to consider a uniform policy to guide us through future requests. So before the council, on stamp page packet 215, is a draft of a proposed policy. This policy would establish the criteria for naming or name changes, including the candidate names can be submitted by council members, city staff, city agencies, or any other organization, and the policy includes consideration to be given for names incorporating the name of the city of Grand Terrace, were deemed appropriate, names that have a recognizable geographic or topographic historical significance, names in honor of persons who have served the nation, the state of California, or the city. There's also a process for naming in honor of a deceased person or in honor of persons or families who have donated lands or funds. The naming procedures provides the city council the ability to establish a subcommittee. So if a request is made by any of the entities that we talked about in this policy, made such a request to name or rename a facility, the council can create a subcommittee, and a subcommittee within 30 days would conduct a meeting and evaluate the proposal. And if they determine that it's a proposal that they want to move forward to the council with a positive recommendation, that will be scheduled before the next council meeting, and there would be a public meeting to have that discussion. If the subcommittee determined that that recommendation would not be moved forward, then that proposal would just end at that particular time. So I think it's appropriate for the city to have a procedure in place that we can follow for future requests, and with that, I would recommend that the council adopt the resolution establishing policies and procedures for the naming of city-owned land, buildings, and facilities. And with that, I will conclude my presentation. I'd be happy to respond to any questions the council may have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Does council have questions for staff? Councilmember Wilson.
Thank you. What's the point of, let's see, it's item number 4, there it is. The naming of city-owned land, buildings, and facilities in honor of a deceased person. Is there a reason why we gotta wait until they're dead?
There isn't a particular reason other than, well, sometimes something like that happens, and the council or a community member may wish to speed up or just jump into a process like this, and sometimes with the removal or the time frame of 1 year, there's the opportunity for perhaps emotions to settle and then have a more reasonable discussion.
If you'll also notice in that language, we use the word generally. And so there's obviously room if the council decides to do other than after a person has been deceased. But I think what we wanted to do was to put forward a policy that is pretty standard in most organizations. There are exceptions to that rule, but most organizations wait until after a person has been deceased or something spectacular happens.
But item 3 would be naming it after somebody who is currently alive or could be currently alive.
Yeah. Yes, exceptional, distinguishable manner, yes, absolutely.
Okay. Mayor Pro Tem Robles.
I just want to make a couple of comments. There had been, in the county of San Bernardino, a number of parks and unincorporated areas named for county boards of supervisors that were later indicted on criminal charges. So, you know, there's a good reason to be very cautious and have a measured way into wading into these waters. The other thing that I like in the procedures is to have a subcommittee. I really don't feel an urgent need to be changing names right now, and I can see where we don't show restraint in this area, you know, it could get kind of busy into naming lands, buildings, and all that kind of stuff. So, you know, I'll support this, but I also want, you know, to have the caveats of that, you know, they're having a discussion where in Long Beach there's a high school named after Robert E. Lee that predated the Civil War, and now here we are now with what happened in Baltimore, and is it North Carolina or South Carolina on the Confederate flag. You know, and for the record, my feeling is, usually in the history of war, is when you win, your flag takes precedence, which is the flag that I honored at the beginning of this meeting, which is the only flag for me in the United States. So, I mean, there's just things that when you start getting into human passions for things, we can get a little bit into some waters that I don't want to necessarily go into, and I think the procedures you lay out articulate that.
Is that a motion I hear? Mayor Pro Tem?
Yes. I move this item is to adopt a resolution number 2015, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Grand Terrace, State of California, establishing policies and procedures for the naming of city-owned land, buildings, and facilities.
Is there a second?
I second.
Okay, any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, please vote.
Motion passes, 5 ayes. Council members Hussey, Wilson, Mitchell voted aye. Mayor Pro Tem Robles voted aye. Mayor McNamara voted aye.
Thank you. Item 9 is reaffirmation of resolution number 2012-11, support transfer of Ontario Airport to local control. May we have staff report, please?
Good afternoon, Madam Mayor and council members. This item was an informational item requested by our Mayor McNamara to be brought forward to the council to provide the new council members with information to further support the issue on the city's behalf. This item supports 2030 Vision Goal Number 4 to develop and implement successful partnerships by working collaboratively with other public sector agencies to facilitate the delivery of services benefiting our community. This resolution was approved by the council on February 28, 2012 to support the Ontario Airport to be locally controlled instead of under the joint powers agreement with the Los Angeles City Agency.
Thank you. This concludes my report. I can answer any questions the council may have. I know we were asked as a city to, again, send a letter of support for this, and that happened after the council had changed. considerably, so I wanted the opportunity for this council to make the determination whether we, as a city, are still supporting this and affirm that by having an opportunity such as this.
I move to reaffirm the adoption of resolution number 2012-11, a resolution of the City of Grand Terrace, California, in support of the transfer of Ontario Airport to local control.
I will second.
Okay. There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? Okay. Not, please vote.
Motion passes, 5 ayes. Council members Hussey, Wilson, Mitchell voted aye. Mayor Pro Tem Robles voted aye. Mayor McNamara voted aye.
Thank you. Our last item is City Manager Communications. Mr. City Manager?
Yes, Mayor, Council, just a quick note is that I did send an email out to the council and wanted to remind the citizens or alert the citizens that there will be pothole repairs done on major streets throughout the city today and tomorrow. That should capture the majority of the potholes that are serious potholes that we need to replace on those major streets. So that should be completed by the end of the day tomorrow. And also, too, on Monday starts the child care program in the community room. So there should be quite a lot of activity occurring at City Hall for the next couple weeks. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. With that, I will say that our next regular meeting of the City Council will be held on Tuesday, August 11th, 2015 at 6 p.m. Agenda items request must be submitted in writing to City Clerk's office no later than 14 calendar days preceding the meeting. With that, we are adjourned.